There has been a
President
statement.
Trump is expected to drop that controversial so-called anti-weaponization fund. That's according to two Republican sources familiar with the matter. In May, the Justice Department announced a $1.776 billion fund to be paid for by taxpayers. You'll remember it came out of a settlement where President Trump dropped a lawsuit against the IRS, and in exchange, the fund was created. The Justice Department had said that the money would compensate people who were...
I'm Mark Manson, and if you think this story ended when they said the fund was dead, you haven't been paying attention. A federal judge named Leonie Brinkema just issued an indefinite preliminary injunction blocking the Trump administration's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund. The fund built to pay Trump's allies, the January 6th rioters who attacked police officers, people who framed themselves as victims of the government they stormed. Before she signed, she asked the DOJ's own attorney one question in open court. Why won't the Attorney General swear under penalty of perjury that this fund is actually gone? He had nothing. I don't know, Your Honor. Those were his words, not a defense, a confession. Here's the part people are still sleeping on. Even after Blanche told Congress the fund was dead, Trump went on Meet the Press and said the opposite. His own president contradicting his own attorney general on camera while a federal judge was actively watching the case. She cited those statements when she signed the order. What the fallout revealed is simpler and uglier than most legal stories. A president tried to use $1.8 billion of taxpayer money to pay off his political allies, and the thing that caught him was his own inability to shut up. You need to understand what this fund actually was, because the name is designed to throw you off. Anti-weaponization sounds like a shield against something. It wasn't a shield. Here's what CBS confirmed it was actually built to do.
Minutes saying that they, in essence, disagree with a court ruling that had said that the Justice Department couldn't proceed with what it calls the anti-weaponization fund, as they put it, recently established in order to make up for the tremendous abuse, harm, and hate unfairly shown to so many people. They say it was open to anybody who was so weaponized, targeted, or persecuted, whether they were Democrat, Republican, conservative, independent, or otherwise. So the department will comply with this ruling. This Justice Department doesn't often immediately comply with a district court ruling on policy that they know is important or a priority to the president. But what's transpired here since the announcement...
Now you see the scheme. Trump sued his own government. His own DOJ settled with him. Taxpayer money went into a fund, no transparency, no formal criteria, no oversight, and the Attorney General alone decided who got paid. What Todd Blanche's testimony before Congress revealed is why Republicans in his own party called it the biggest blowback they'd ever seen.
Just as a reminder, Todd Blanche is still acting Attorney General, but the way he's been engaged in the last few months, it doesn't feel like an acting Attorney General. But we were talking about how Trump is using that tool. So
yeah,
I just a reminder of that. One of the most discussed names in media is still acting.
Well, let's talk about him. Blanche testified before a House Budget Committee Tuesday that the administration's controversial $1.776 billion anti-weaponization fund has been scrapped. First of all, remind us what this now shelved fund was all about.
Well, this was to reimburse people who the Trump administration believed were victims of lawfare and the weaponization of the U.S. government under the Biden administration, and would have benefited a host of people who claim or believe that they were targeted because of their political viewpoints. It generated probably more backlash than anything Trump has done within the Republican caucus of the U.S. Senate, where close to a majority seemed that were effectively signaling that they would not support it, hell or high water.
And why was there so much blowback on this?
Well, in great part because there was a feeling that the January 6th people who had been pardoned by Trump, people that had previously been arrested for their behavior on January 6th, people that had attacked security and police officers at the Capitol would be enabled to get funding from this fund. And I think that became one of the most controversial pieces of that deal.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the deal.
Blanche told Congress the fund was dead, period. Then Trump went on national television and said he wanted it to happen. The judge was watching. She read those statements into the court record. Then she asked the DOJ why their own attorney general wouldn't simply sign his name to his own claim. He couldn't answer. This is what a federal judge looks like when she's done waiting for an explanation.
Backlash on Capitol Hill from Republicans. Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump even met today on the White House talking about this very issue. And it had become such an issue for Republicans that it was holding up their entire immigration and border patrol package in the Senate, with Republicans urging the president to either drop the fund or to put some sort of guardrails or restrictions on the fund in order to get this immigration bill passed. So that is what I'm told we are expecting Trump to do. He's expected to make an announcement shortly here, dropping his plans for this weaponization fund. My colleague Frank Thorpe did catch up with Senate GOP leader John Thune, who said he wasn't sure, was not able to confirm what was happening, but he did tell Frank that I do think the best way to handle it is if the administration decides to shut it down themselves, that referring to the fund. So Republicans were in a real pickle here. They did not want to go against the president by adding amendments to this immigration package restricting the fund. They wanted Trump to take this into it.
And then came the part that even Senate Republicans couldn't ignore, because the money wasn't just going to Trump's allies. It was also shielding Trump personally. This part of the deal, still on the table, is what a judge in Florida is now investigating for fraud.
Because of this is a signal of how sensitive this was, not just to the most vulnerable of Republicans on the ballot this fall, but potentially to the entire caucus. The White House is asking Congress right now to authorize billions of dollars on a handful of things. One, tens of billions of dollars more for immigration and customs enforcement and the Customs and Border Protection agencies. The end result of the long shutdown that occurred, they're using legislation in a way where only Republicans need to pass it, and trying to, in essence, authorize tens of billions of dollars in funding for those agencies now, before they potentially lose full control of Congress, at a time when there's been broad concern about immigration policy and what happened in Minneapolis earlier this year. So that's the underlying thing Republicans are being asked to do, and in some parts of the country still quite controversial and unpopular. Put on top of that, that huge request for funding that the White House says is mostly about security for the reconstruction of the East Wing, but was also seen, in essence, as congressional authorization of a construction project the president started on his own and never sought congressional approval for. And then you layer the slush fund or the weaponization fund on top of that, and that's when it hit a pressure point, and Republicans lashed out at the acting attorney general and said, if you can't provide us with a reason for this and a justification for it and a sense of how exactly money would be doled out and to who exactly.
Let me tell you what actually happened here, because the headline misses it. A sitting president sued his own government. His own Justice Department settled that lawsuit secretly, without congressional approval, without public notice, and walked away with $1.8 billion in taxpayer money. No real criteria, no public oversight, no formal commission, just 5 people handpicked by the Attorney General to decide who's a victim and what they're owed. At the top of that list, the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th, people who beat police officers, people who broke windows and chased lawmakers through the halls of Congress, people who were convicted, sentenced, pardoned, and had already started filing applications before the settlement was even cold. That's not a legal technicality. That's a confession of intent. The judge saw it. Leonie Brinkema is not some activist appointee. She's a federal judge with a lifetime appointment and decades on the bench. She sat in open court, read the president's own words from a TV interview into the record, and asked the DOJ's lawyer one question. Why won't your boss put his name on the claim that this fund is dead? The DOJ attorney said he didn't know. She said that wasn't good enough. Then she signed the injunction. Here's what I need you to understand. We've been here before. Rulings come down, lawyers stand in front of cameras, headlines declare accountability. Then weeks pass. Nothing happens. The fund comes back in a different shape. A different judge throws it out somewhere else. The cycle starts over. I know you're tired. Some of you have been watching this administration walk away from court orders for years without consequence. But this one is different. Here's why. The judge didn't just issue an injunction. She gave the Attorney General and the Treasury Secretary 1 week to submit sworn declarations, under penalty of perjury, that the fund will not go forward. Not a press statement, not congressional testimony, a sworn declaration. The kind where lying is a crime. Blanche refused in Congress. He refused in court. The judge noticed. She said on record that his refusal, combined with the president publicly saying he wanted the fund to happen, gave her clear evidence that without a court order, it would come back. That's the reckoning, not a press conference. A federal judge looking at the Attorney General of the United States and saying, I don't believe you. Prove it, under oath, or the injunction stands. The Florida case is now even deeper. 35 former federal judges filed a brief asking that court to reopen it. Their argument is blunt. The original settlement was collusive from the start. Trump sued his own government not because he had a real legal claim, but because he controlled both sides. The judge can't dismiss a case designed to deceive her. That's fraud on the court. That phrase carries weight most people don't appreciate. Fraud on the court is one of the most serious findings in federal law. It means the process was corrupted at the root. It means the settlement that created this fund may be void. It means the people who built it could face consequences well beyond losing a civil case. Nobody is above the law. Not the president, not the attorney general, not the people who attacked police officers and then lined up to be paid for it with your money. The president's own words are in the court record. They'll be there forever. There's no appeal from that. If this made you angry, good. That anger is telling you something. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Tell me in the comments whether you think Blanche actually signs that sworn declaration, because I don't think he will. And if this helped you understand what just happened, send it to one person who needs to.